So I hit the wrong button. I have to start this over again. As I was saying, I watched this video once just a little bit ago, lost most of my thoughts on it. So it's gonna kind of be another, new reaction, and it just caught me off guard as something surprisingly relatable, especially in our context here. Relatable in terms of depression and struggle. And I will warn you, by the way, there's definitely cursing in this song, so if that is a bad thing, just tune out until the song's over. Well, we're going to be going over the lyrics, and there's cursing in the lyrics, so use your own discretion. Let's go. Okay, so I am kind of going through the lyrics, I can't help it. But in tandem with the visuals, I think is really kind of drives home the intensity of what's happening here. It's almost like he's just committed this heinous, massive crime, and is trying to repent for it. Is trying to, he feels bad about it. He feels guilty, and someone, doctor, whoever. I mean, it doesn't have to be a doctor. I mean, people tell us all the time, right? Oh, you'll get through it. Oh, this won't last forever. So terribly condescending, and I think this really drives that home because there's such a severe discrepancy between the remorse and the reality of the weight that he's feeling, and the weight of the reality that he's feeling. Regardless of if it's, what's the word? Objectively on this level, I mean, it probably isn't, but it's getting at how severe the guilt and the shame can be. And it's driving home how disproportionate people's responses are, how disproportionately out of touch their responses are. Especially with phrasing like that, you're just going through a phase. It's like it's not even listening to what's happening, they're just telling you, even if it is a phase, that doesn't matter. The fact that that's how someone's trying to console you, it's like they're not even plugged in, you're just kind of either, like in the case of a doctor, maybe, you're just a job, object to interact with. So here's the objective thing that's going on. But in the case of people in general, I think when we normally hear this, it's like there just tends not to be a connection. It just really lacks empathy. Even if the person has gone through a similar thing before, they're not empathizing with their past selves in it either.
I battle with depression, but the question still remains: is this post-traumatic stressing, or am I suppressing rage? And my doctor tries to tell me that I'm going through a phase. Yeah, it's not a fucking phase. I just want to feel okay. Yeah.
Okay. Is this post-traumatic stress, or am I suppressing rage? So I think that's good, because while I don't think I have suffered from PTSD or PTSS, either one, any variant of these things, it's kind of along the same lines as the thing with the phase. It's like, well, if we just kind of shove what's going on with you as you're really actually experiencing, and just kind of shovel it into a diagnostic category, then it's almost like it doesn't matter, or you can just kind of get over it now. Obviously that's not the case, and regardless of if there's a label on something, that doesn't change how real it is. It doesn't change how personal it is, how impactful it is. It doesn't lessen the struggle of it. Now, I'll admit, just for myself, there have been a couple of occasions when those diagnoses have been confirmed that at least have helped to assuage the guilt and the shame and the sort of self-loathing of not forcing myself to hit the right standards, whatever those happen to seem to be, according to whoever happens to be around at the time, or I guess my dad in my case for the most part. But yeah.
I struggle with this bullshit every day, and it's probably because my demons simultaneously rage. It obliterates me. The same circle rates me.
Yeah. The thing about I struggle with this every day, probably because my demons simultaneously rage. So it's like, yay, I don't have editing and I can't cut out awkward silences. So there are multiple demons and they're all raging at the same time, and maybe that seems kind of obvious, but so maybe one demon is PTSS, one demon might be depression, one demon might be guilt, one might be shame, one might be embarrassment, one might be humiliation, one might be self-loathing. They're all raging at the same time. And I think that's part of what, like, it's so significant, so pervasive, so constant, that it annihilates him. That it consumes you, like, to the point that you don't even remember who you are. You're just this rage, anger in this case, regret, all of it, all the time, right? It's not just like one thing at a time, and the things are not separate. It all just kind of melts together into this massive, grotesque, unmanageable monster. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back through the lyrics again, but the line, I'm just sticking on the last line, I'm a liar, a cheater, a non-believer. I don't know if the person who wrote this, or the person who's performing, assuming it is the person who wrote it, is or has been a Christian or religious in any way. But I'm going to assume that there's some element of that. So there's two ways this can go. So either these are things that he's been accused of, being a liar, a cheater, a non-believer, or he's been a liar and a cheater, and he sees himself as a non-believer. And maybe that's something he's even struggling with, being or seeing himself as, regardless of whether he is or not. And that, of course, is a massive, massive aspect of picking up your cross every day, is not that you assume that you are a believer, right? But that you struggle with not being one, even from moment to moment, because the cross is heavy by necessity.
I think I'm going nowhere like a rat.
Okay, that's interesting. Just that scene that sort of just picked up there. Like he's going through these neighborhoods that I assume he's sort of used to, or maybe not. Maybe he feels very alien in them. I'm kind of assuming he feels very alien in them even while he's used to them. And to wake up this therapist in the middle of the night, that presumably is one he already has a relationship with. So there does seem to be an element there of really realizing just how far down he is, if he's able to sort of walk past these various things that may be temptations, distractions, whatever, and keep walking to this place where he presumably is not welcome in the middle of the night to try to get help. We'll see how it goes.
Trapped in a maze, every wall that I knock down is just a wall that I replace. I'm in a race against myself, I try to keep a steady pace.
Okay, I didn't catch that line quick enough. Every wall that I walk down, every wall that I knock down is a wall that I replace. Man, that's such an image of sin, and how it affects us, how we live with it. And it's like every time he gets over one thing, he puts something else in its place. That's even, in a sense, how sanctification works. Because we're in, one state of depravity at a certain point, and then God is drawing us out of that over time. Um, and but as he's drawing us out of a certain state of depravity, more and more sins keep coming to light. So it's like more walls keep getting put back in place, in the same place where the old ones were knocked down, or maybe more keep getting put up, like in between us and where we're trying to go, that we didn't see before. Because that's the nature of how significant, how deep, how complex our sin is. Like, it has to be dealt with over a lifetime. Like, there's no way of just having it doesn't just go away at the moment of conversion or at any singular point. Like, yeah, maybe specific things, like aspects of sin that we struggle with or against, and against, will go away at a given point, but not overall. Overall, it's this really exasperating process of decades, of forever, really, at least until at least in this life.
How the fuck will I escape if I never close my case? Oh my god, I keep on stressing. Every second that I waste is another second sooner to a blessing I won't take. But my therapist will tell me that I'm going through a stage. Yeah, it's not a fucking stage, I just wanna feel okay.
Okay, there's a lot there. There's a lot, and that's like every line of this song, man, is just packed. But right, even just continuing the scenario in the middle of the night where he goes to wake the guy up, where he's not welcome, and he just gets the same answer. So, what would in a lot of our cases be, maybe like we garner up the courage finally to go to, I don't know, a parent or a pastor, some other church leader or something, maybe someone at school, and just terrifying and humiliating. And we finally get things out, and they just kind of brush it off, like it's not important. It's just a stage, a phase, whatever. Now, wrong way. Like, you could be using the word stage just as a synonym for phase, but also, of course, they're like the stages of grief, stages of steps of the 12-step program, stages of grief. Okay. Yeah, so maybe there's some sort of loss that he's grieving that is part of what's feeding into this sort of constant anguish. But maybe not. Maybe that particular word choice wasn't that intentional.
Now you got my attention. I need to change a couple things, cause something is missing. What if I was a lie? Tell you everything is fine. Every single fucking day I get closer to the grave.
Did you catch that? Not the word that his eyes were glowing like something trying to get out, or generally just like he was possessed, which I think goes back to, in part, the thing about the demons raging earlier, that maybe there's more to it than just like the general sense of having demons, and it's more overt, more intense, more intentional. Like, I'm actually possessed, like I'm literally not myself, or not in control of myself by any means. I don't want to get into that right now, but man. Okay, I don't know what's going on with that phone call, but obviously he turns to this person as this person he can trust, and the person doesn't trust him. How major is that? Like, you can't... How hard is it to trust, to open up to anyone? And when they first they don't listen, and then they don't trust you enough in return to even just have a conversation, right? They're just trying to kind of brush you off as a problem that someone else needs to deal with. The line that is repeated in the chorus that I just picked up on, I'm falling into love now and falling apart. That, like, if there was a phrase to really describe what genuine conversion looks like, feels like, it's that. Like, by necessity, as you're falling in love with God, you have to fall apart. Like, I don't have to, like, you have to get up and do it separately. I mean, like, it's a natural consequence of it. Like, the two are inextricably connected. And that's what, again, what sanctification is too, is the more you fall in love with the God who is love, the more your old self falls away and falls apart in pieces. It falls apart in pieces and presumably then falls away in those pieces. Also, the fact that his therapist called it looked like Jurassic Park Animal Control. So he's trapped. Ooh, that's interesting. Okay, so first of all, this just became an underworld movie. Second of all, man, I totally forgot what I was going to say. I'll just, right, the fact that he ran into this room, and it's like he stopped and he was trapped before he was actually surrounded, but it's a room that's surrounded by openings. So, almost like when he gets to his worst, like literally any direction he goes is a potential escape, but he's so done with running, or maybe not even able to run anymore because things have gotten so bad that it doesn't matter that 10 feet in every direction is an escape. He still can't get to them. And then, of course, the longer you're there, the harder now you're trapped and just pushed over the edge. Okay, I don't know how to back this up properly. Okay, get the kid off the screen. So it's like he explodes. He does a whole bunch of damage to a whole bunch of people who, admittedly, were not there to help him. They were there to keep him contained from everyone else. Because the person who was supposed to be helping him only acted in the interest of everyone else, and really didn't see him at all. At least not for who he was, but just for what was wrong with him. And so he explodes, like, this is carnage, and then immediately he's back to himself. But he's not just back to himself. Like, suddenly, I mean, of course, like, his clothes are ripped off, but I mean, so afterward, like, he's not covered anymore. He's naked and vulnerable. Like, he's so aware of how bad he gets when he goes over the edge. And he's just kind of in the midst of this carnage that he has wrought. And, I don't know, just like in my experience, I, you know, as someone on the autism spectrum, part of what I deal with fairly often is, or somewhat often, is, I don't know what you would call it. It's just like getting so overwhelmed, like so much stimulus from every direction, and my brain can't handle it. And a lot of times I'll just shut down and kind of just dissociate from everything. But sometimes, especially when I get overheated, it's just exploding. And thankfully, I will call it a blessing. I've been blessed to not ever take it out on people. But man, do I get some rage strength, and do I destroy things? Not often. Like, I have, thankfully, I'm at the point now where I typically don't break stuff. I don't know, one of the more recent things, well, the most recent thing was, I can't even remember what led up to it, but I have this steel toolbox with 3 drawers. It's about, well, you can't see how big it is, maybe 20 inches wide and 16 inches deep, and I just slammed my fist down on the corner of it, well, 2 or 3 times, and now it's like crumpled and like bent inward and the top doesn't close anymore, and then kind of the same situation somewhat continued, and I had this crescent wrench I was trying to do something with and smacked it on my work table a couple times, and now there's 3 times, because there's 3 holes that are like that deep now in the shape of the place where the little piece of metal comes out when you adjust the size of the wrench. Anyway, so yeah, and then it's like that comes out, and then you just realize, honestly, you just feel like a moron. Plus, if you broke something, you feel bad about it. Jeez. So it's like, I assume this is or is supposed to be his little girl. Man, that is hard. Like, 'cause you get so trapped in just yourself, your life, your demons, your rages, the thing, yourself just falling apart, and then someone you really care about sees you, and suddenly you know that they see you, and man, that's so hard. And when it's a kid, like, most people, right, just don't, even when they really do care, and they see you, but they don't really understand fully, but they're still there, and maybe that's the point of the kid, is that when you get that one person or that couple of people who see you, have no idea what's going on with you, but they still see you anyway, and not just your problems. I mean, what's wrong with you? You know, they don't just see you as a compilation of what's wrong with you. But more, I mean, if it is specific to the kid, like, it's, man, that sucks. Like, kids don't know. Can't. Alright, I'm gonna lose it here. I'm gonna stop this train of thought. Okay, you know what? I think this has been going on long enough, so I'm gonna. How do I want to do this? I haven't thought this through, and I don't edit things. I don't have the ability to yet. So, long video, but we'll jump into the lyrics now. I'm not gonna make it a separate one. A lot of this stuff, I had mentioned already. Wake up every morning with my head up in a daze. So that already is like, you're supposed to wake up and be refreshed, but as soon as he wakes up, he's already like not even, where am I? Things are clouded. It doesn't really, so glary. But now I can't see. I'm not sure if I should say this. I'll say it anyway. Everybody tries to tell me that I'm going through. Okay, it was everybody's trying to tell the phase first, and then the doctor was second. That was kind of what I was missing last time. I don't know if it's a phase. I just want to feel okay. Like, yeah. Like, someone can tell you something's a phase. They might even know what it is. Maybe, clinically speaking, that is what it is. But that doesn't mean anything here. Like, it doesn't really matter what it's called. You just want to be able to function, to see, to not have this cloud of oppression and depression. I battle with depression, but the question still remains: is this my post-traumatic stress or am I suppressing rage? My doctor tries to tell me that I'm going through a phase. Yet it's not a phase. I just want to feel okay. Struggle with this every day, and probably because my demons simultaneously rage. It obliterates me, disintegrates me, annihilates me. Man. So it's like you get hit, you get torn into pieces, and the pieces get destroyed. I'm about to break down, searching for a way out. Like, honestly, normally, well, it depends on the type of breakdown. From a sort of spiritual standpoint, I would tend to say that breakdowns are actually a good thing, because you're finally realizing the end of your rope that you're at, or maybe that you've fallen off of it already. So, and searching for a way out is kind of the same. Like, you're not really looking until you know just how broken down you are, and you allow yourself to be broken down, because only at that point do you realize the necessity of searching for that way. The way it happens to be Jesus. I'm a liar, a cheater, a non-believer, popular monster. breakdown, falling into love now. Oh, that's what he said. Falling into love now with falling apart. Ooh. So it's like this addiction to, I mean, the other stuff I said earlier was still true, but this, like, he's addicted almost to being destroyed, right? Like, all he knows is falling apart. And, it's like you become so intimate with someone, with something, and he's falling in love with it. Like, almost like a Stockholm syndrome, I think. So liar, cheater, non-believer, popular monster, breakdown, falling into love. Now, with falling apart, a popular monster. And geez, if the element of popularity is maybe working itself into it too, and there could be an aspect of, like, the appearance of falling apart could be part of what is causing him to be popular. Maybe certainly in the case, like with this song, ironically, unfortunately. I think I'm going nowhere like a rat trapped in a maze. Every wall that I knock down is a wall that I replace. I'm in a race against myself. I try to keep a steady pace. How does that work? Because if you just keep a steady pace, you're not going to get ahead of yourself. Of course, it's like in is it 1 Corinthians 9, I think, where Paul talks about, sort of the endurance race and racing to the end, and beating your body till you make it your slave. Which, by the way, do not take that literally. We can discuss that later. Don't go out and do that. It's not biblical advice. Therapist will tell me that I'm going through a stage. Oh, right. Back up a little. How will I escape if I never close my case? My God, I keep on stressing every second that I waste is another second sooner to a blessing. Jeez. So that's like a straight up psalm line. I don't see how that's atheistic at all. Like, this is what I'm stressing over. Like, I'm so stressed about stressing. I'm so stressed about wasting my time that it's like, God, you keep giving me opportunities, but I'm afraid I'm going to keep missing them because I've just been wasting my time. Well, let me guarantee you right now, that's not how God works. Like, yeah, sometimes there will appear to have been opportunities that you missed because he wants you to be able to grow from being able to see that you missed it, but absolutely every opportunity that he wants you to have is not going to disappear because you missed it. Like, the ones that he actually wants you to take, you will necessarily be able to take them. It doesn't mean in every case that you will take them, because plenty of times he'll give you a legitimate choice, and you just sit down and have this conversation with him and with his people, too, to figure out where to actually go. And I expect that always there's a way that God wants you to go in that, but it's not always so definitely you're not going to lose opportunities that God would want you to have because you're wasting time. Like, in terms of, you're not going to lose. If God wanted you to take an opportunity, the opportunity is going to come up in a situation where you're going to be able to take it. And if you're stuck in something like depression and you just end up feeling like you're wasting time, he's not just going to throw stuff at you that you're going to miss because he knows you can't reach out and take it right now. Like, he suffers with you. He's not just tapping his foot, waiting for you to hurry up and get on the other side. Like, he knows he is in your heart with you. He carries. I don't say he carries you. That's a different conversation of like, oh, well, I'm not going through it. I guess you are going through it. He goes through it with you. He suffers it with you. That's what he carried on the cross is what you're suffering right now. My therapist, so it's like, here's this prayer, this one-on-one with God, and then my therapist will tell me that I'm just going through a stage. So it's back to like this person that should be representing the goodness of God to some extent, even if he's a secular therapist. But again, just not listening. And like he says, he's here not listening. It's not a stage. I just want to feel okay. It's not even like it's an important choice of the word feel. Maybe is that he's not saying I want to be okay. Almost like that might be too high of a standard. I just want to feel like I'm okay. Now you got my attention. I need to change a couple things because something is missing. So who is he talking to? The therapist? Or maybe to God? And what if I were to lie to tell you everything is fine? Every single day I get closer to the grave. I'm terrified. I fell asleep at the wheel again, crashed my car just to feel again. Jeez, it obliterates me. Now you have this physical like image of actually physically being obliterated, disintegrated, annihilated. Um, so if this is to the therapist, it's like, again, the person's not listening. He's just trying to explain it. It's not working. If this is to God, it's like, when you really are this far down, like, it's gonna feel worse to be able to get out of it. And that's part of what sucks, is that when God starts to pull you out, like, you start to realize how bad it is. Because when you're in it, you kind of get numb to just reality, to some extent. Especially like his line, I'm falling in love with falling apart. Like, I'm just getting used to it. Because I'm about to break down, searching for a way out. I'm a liar, a cheater, a non-believer, popular monster. Here we go again. Jeez. So I'm thinking, what is a non-believer? I'm going to go with, one, he's in a race with himself, so there's two aspects, the one of him that talks to God and the one of him that's a non-believer. So that's probably a thing, but also the thing where he's being accused of it because he doesn't hit the right outward check boxes of whatever a person is supposed to be like in whatever church culture he may, or religious culture he happens to be adjacent to, or in. We're sick and tired of wondering, praying to a God that you don't believe. So that's an interesting change in perspective. So maybe the therapist and the doctor, let's just say they both represent, like, church leadership figures. Some kind of spiritual, religious figures. We're sick and tired. I don't know who the we is, unless it's like the two aspects of himself. Praying to a God that you don't believe. Now that's actually that makes a lot of sense, especially with the therapist picking up the phone and calling the cops. Basically, it's like, I'm coming to you because you're supposed to know God. That's what you've said. I'm coming to you because you're supposed to be open. You're supposed to know who God is, and you can put me in touch with him because I feel so disconnected, and all you do is call cops. Like, you don't even... And I think it's an interesting choice of words, because he's not saying praying to a God that you don't believe in, but just don't believe. And either one would have fit, I think in the verse. And this is, I suppose all of us have elements of this, but certainly this is most people most of the time in the church, and leadership, unfortunately, is so prevalent. When it comes to actually interacting with people, like, you can believe in God, you have an intellectual, like, assent that he is there, but you don't really believe what he says. And in this case, when it comes to working with someone, in your congregation or a client or whatever, but you don't believe what God says about them, so you don't believe how human they are, how much value they have that God says that they have, and you don't believe how God says he's going to work with them and protect you, honestly, because what's the worst that happens? You're working with a client, they snap, do something, you die, oh well. And yeah, pragmatically, that sucks. But man, if that's the way to go out, like, I'm going to be afraid, so I'm going to betray this person, and here's the God I'm supposed to represent, but instead I'm just preserving myself. Now, by all means, I'm not saying put yourself in danger. I'm not saying, if you happen to work in any sort of ministry, to put yourself in a situation or even keep yourself in a situation that seems dangerous or impractical. But at the same time, like in this case, with this old dude who presumably lives by himself, who has his own practice, like, just let that be it, man. I don't know. Like, be smart, be discerning, but don't be fake and don't be a liar. And if it comes to... I can't be prescriptive on this. Just don't take any of it for granted. I almost tried to start the video again. Praying to God that you don't believe. We're searching for the truth in the lost and found. So the question I ask is, where is your God now? Oh, that's cool. I mean, I guess it's just the people who have written this. but they decapitalized God in this last line here. I guess you can see it. Searching for the truth in the lost and the found. So is that the people who have been both lost and found, I assume? And so talking to this person who kind of doesn't seem to believe God, where is your God? But where is your, presumably, your false God? Now, we're searching for the things that have meaning, like through the meaning that is had. And where is your God again? Like, in 1 Kings 18, Elijah's up on the mountain, and the Baalites are like doing their dance and everything, trying to summon their gods to bring down the fire, and he's just like, well, where are your gods? You know, did they take a bathroom break? I mean, he was being kind of, I think, unnecessarily snide there, but it's kind of the same point, I think. 'Cause I'm about to break down Searching for a Way Out, Liar, Cheater, Non-Believer, Popular Monster. Also just had this idea of breaking down walls, breaking down prison doors, searching for a way out of this prison, this maze that was alluded to in the second verse. Yeah. There's a lot here, man. And it's like a 3 minute and 40 something second song. Alright. Well, I guess that's it. Typical YouTube stuff. Hopefully you guys, hopefully some people see this, and recommend some songs for me, anyone who is seeing this, because I want to get to the point where I can react to this stuff without having had to have known about it necessarily to begin with. But we'll see. Talk to you guys later.